Hey filmmaker, my name is Kevin Votzek and this is the Filmmaker's Blog. In this video, we're going to talk about f-stops and how they measure light and manipulate depth of field. So we've covered ISO, we've covered shutter speed and shutter angle and what they do and how they affect light. But most importantly, we learned how to measure light using f-stops with ISO and shutter speed. So if you missed any of the past videos, make sure to watch them all. This is part of a camera exposure series and it will be linked above and below. Now it's time to talk about f-stops. And even though we've talked about stops in our past videos, we've only really mentioned them as a unit for measuring light. And even though that's exactly what it is, there's a bit more to it. Inside a lens, there's an element called the iris. The iris controls the aperture, and the aperture is the hole inside the lens that lets light pass through and expose the image. Determining the size of the aperture also determines how much light passes through to expose the image. And what better way to measure that light than using f-stops? This is the f-stop scale. And I recommend that you memorize this scale, and even though it looks a little bit scary, it's much easier than you think. The trick is the entire scale is just the first two numbers continually multiplied by 2. So you really only need to memorize f1 and f1.4, because once you multiply both of these numerals by 2, you get the next two numbers of the f-stop scale, which would be 2 and f2.8. And you'll continue this until you fill the entire f-stop scale, rounding down for f11, of course. The tricky part about f-stops is that the smaller the number on the f-stop scale, the larger the aperture, and the larger the number on the scale, the smaller the aperture. This means that an f-stop with a low number is brighter than an f-stop with a high number. So to get a brighter image, you would have to go down the scale. f11 is one stop brighter than f16. A one stop increase is 2 times the light. f11 is 2 times brighter than f16. And to get a darker image, you'd have to go up the scale. f4 is one stop darker than f2.8. A one stop decrease is 2 times less light, or half the light. f4 is half as bright as f2.8. Now f-stops not only control light, but they also control depth of field. Depth of field is the amount of 3D space of an image that is in focus. If we think of our world like a graph, we have our x-axis, our y-axis, and our z-axis. Depth of field deals with z space. The larger the number on the f-stop scale, the more z space is in focus. More of your image will be in focus. While a smaller number on the f-stop scale, the less z space is in focus, and you'll have shallow depth of field. Alright, we did f-stops, we did the f-stop scale, and we did depth of field. Next week, we're going to put it all together, ISO, shutter speed, and f-stops, like we would if we were really filming, and talk about how these settings affect each other. Nothing happens in a vacuum, so we need to put it all together. If you want to learn more, make sure to check out the Jumpstart to Exposure Guide on thefilmmakersblog.com. If you like the video, give it a like, subscribe so you get notified when I drop my next video, even though you already know it's every Friday.